Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I'm going to talk all about injuries, how training can improve injuries, how to train around injuries, how it can also help prevent injuries. So if you are struggling with an injury or if you've been ignoring an injury, this is your time. Go see a physio. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So today I wanted to talk to you guys all about training in regards to injury, training if you're injured, how, it can help prevent injury and also how it can help rehab injuries. First, a little disclaimer on it I want to put in is that if you do have a spinal injury or if you have a nerve injury, obviously strength training will not be able to improve this, unfortunately, because that is kind of a permanent damage kind of situation. But also, if you are recently injured, before you do go and try to start working around it or even trying to build it back up, I would suggest going to see a physio, not a doctor, a physio or a physical therapist or something first, to make sure that you are not going to do more damage. So this is not me saying if you're injured, go on ahead. I said get professional advice first and then proceed from there with your training, okay? So I just wanted to cover that first. So I think maybe people are getting a bit better at not doing this, but there kind of is, in a sense, like a lot of people seem to have some form of injury or pain and they just kind of ignore it until it gets bad enough that they have to do something about it. And I have seen a lot of people will go to the doctor and then they get referred to an MRI and all this stuff, when if they went to a physio it could be dealt with a lot quicker. A lot of the time, doctors, GPs are great, but they are not trained to, say for instance, diagnose muscular injuries and stuff like that. So they'll either give you painkillers and hope they go away or kind of refer you on. So I always advise trying to go to someone who specialises in muscular or skeletal injuries and stuff like that before you go to the doctor. Again, said nothing against doctors. The other thing we get told to do a lot of the time is rest and it'll go away. Now, this is true. Initially, when you are injured, there is an inflammation stage that you need to let the injury go through no matter what you're doing. And inflammation is actually the first start of healing. So you have to let it go through that. And then after it's gone through the inflammation stage, that starts to go, it starts to heal. And this is where we need to start working on building it back up. So the reason we want to build it back up is because we don't want it to maintain weak. So one of the biggest precursors to injury is previous injuries. So it's a fact. If you have a muscle or a tendon, if you tear it, unfortunately, it will grow, it'll fix itself. But there'll probably be a bit of scar tissue or the area will be a little bit weaker. And as well, when things like this happen, our body likes to switch off the nerves to the area, as in not make it go dead, but kind of get rid of the pain. So it mightn't fire as well. And if you leave it like that, it's going to stay that way. Now it'll always probably be a little bit weaker. However, if you do some training in the area, it can get those nerves firing again and you can get that, get it working better again. Also, you're going to build up that muscle again, strengthen it up so it's not, now it might still be a little bit weak, like with the likes of tendons, you're kind of stuck with that in a sense, but you can build the muscle around the tendons to support it, to make it less likely to re-injure itself. And another thing I think people do a bit, and I know I am guilty for this, is they will go to a physio and they won't do their exercises and they wonder why they're not getting better. If you paid a physio and they've given you something to do that can help you, surely you'd want to do it, no? But apparently not. Now for me, I find any time I do it, I will do those exercises religiously until I feel better, and then I stop doing them, and then eventually it flares back up and I start doing them again. This is the thing with some kind of injuries, you probably will have to maintain doing them all the time. Now, when you first do your injury, you're probably going to have to do them daily until, some form of strength is built up. But if you exercise or if you are training, you can probably just use them as your warm-up going forward, and that will maintain them. So I think, if there's somewhere where you can work them in a couple of times a week, now there's definitely somewhere you can work them in a couple of times a week, but if you are, say, going to the gym or you're going horse riding or whatever, you can do these as part of your warm-up. I know the horse people are going, what do you mean I don't warm up? Well, do them beforehand. I'm telling you, it'll make your riding better. I feel like a mother saying that to someone. But that's the thing, if you go to a physio, do your exercises. It'll make things better. And if the pain goes away, still kind of maintain them. Try and put them in somewhere in your workout that helps you maintain them from, falling back into the same patterns, because your body will go back, because they'll get weak again and it'll be easier to do it the other way. It might cause a bit of pain for you and discomfort or weakness and difficulty doing things, but our body will always go into that kind of comfort zone, and we all know comfort zones aren't necessarily good. Hopefully we know that. Anyway, I kind of went straight to the end of what I wanted to talk about. So injuries. What causes injuries? Well, there's a multitude of different things. There can be impact injuries, so a fall or being rocket launched off a horse. That any kind of tendonitis injury, so you can get them from running, you can get them from exercise, you can get them from sitting at the desk. That's another one that we get. There is obviously tears, which can happen from, it's kind of almost like a overuse injury. So just because you tear a muscle doesn't mean you say, sometimes we get that from moving too quickly and the muscle isn't ready and you pull something, or you do a tendon. How many times have you seen it happen on the sports pitch? Someone turns one way and suddenly they're down, they've done their cruciate. Sometimes it can be excess force going through the area, like that, a joint injury. If you fall, again, like you see maybe in rugby or GAL, someone tackling them at an awkward angle, that can cause a tear. But also, if you have an overly tight muscle on one side, that can cause another one to loosen out, and it might not necessarily be an injury, but it can cause pain. So what you need to do is maybe try and release that injury by building up the other side of the muscle. So that's something, if people get a lot of shoulder pain as well, that's tension sometimes, because we're holding our shoulders really tight because of stress. So some of it as well, injuries, they're not necessarily injuries, tightnesses and stuff like that can be can be caused by the likes of stress or not dealing with other emotional issues. So this month as well is Stress Awareness Month. So if you are suffering from a lot of maybe tension headaches or tension through your shoulders, maybe have a look into what might be causing that, because it could be outside of, it might necessarily be an injury. You could get all the massages in the world, but if you're stressed, it's not going to help it. So that's just a little side note. Any of these tension things can be caused by being stressed. So as it's the month in it, make sure you look into things that may be causing you stress and see how you can address that instead of hiding from it and getting more stressed. But I digress, as I always do. So we've gone through a load of different types of injuries. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, as I said, there's an inflammation stage. You need to let it rest. In the likes of tendonitis, a lot of the time you have to give it a bit of time before you can do anything. Then again, it's working on strengthening that area. Obviously, if you have a broken bone, again, you're going to have to let that heal. But again, you're also going to have to build up that area, not just for the bone, because obviously the bone's going to be a little bit weaker, but also you're going to have muscle atrophy from not using it, so you're going to have to build that up to strengthen the area. Another thing that happens as we get older is people are more susceptible, especially women, to osteoporosis and osteopenia. So osteopenia is the precursor to osteoporosis, and osteoporosis is the basically brittle bones. So if you fall over, you're more likely to break something or injure yourself. if you are doing some form of strength training, which, as I said, when I say strength training, I don't mean crazy Olympic lifting. This could be body weight stuff like resistance training. Body weight is resistance. That stuff helps you build up your bones, basically. So it helps you make them denser, which means if you fall, you're less likely to injure them. And now, depending on the training you're doing as well, it will help you for impacts as well. So like if you are doing anything that involves kind of hopping or running or anything like that, that is also compounding your bones. So if you fall, they are ready for impacts more so than if you weren't at all. So especially for women, postmenopausal women, it's really, really important to do strength training, especially to avoid that osteopenia turn into osteoporosis, because you have to be very careful then, because the smallest fall can end up in a broken hip, broken arm. You don't want to be in that position, and if you can do something to avoid that, it's almost like stopping an injury happening before it happens. When it comes to tendon injuries and that kind of thing, you can also use strength training to build up the muscles around them to make it less likely to happen. Now, there's always going to be those accidents that you can't control in any sport or even in life. I once put my shoulder out by reaching for a pen, so fun. But again, if you are training, strength training doesn't only strengthen your muscles, it will strengthen your tendons a little bit. Not so much, but on top of that, the muscles are going to become like a protective sheet almost around the likes of your joints. So if you've got muscles around your shoulders and you fall onto your shoulder, there's a bit more, I suppose, insulation there to catch the impact instead of it going straight to your shoulder. And again, that can help protect it. Also, that can help the tendons. If the muscles are able to take the load, it doesn't go through the tendons, which means they're less likely to tear. Same thing like your hips. If you've nice muscles in your legs or whatever, you don't have to be jacked, but it's the kind of thing of having that, and it's protection around these joints. And the same thing with the tendons. If your muscles are firing well and functioning well, it'll put less strain on the tendon, which means it's less likely to have damage. And for anyone who doesn't know, a tendon injury can take a long time to heal, and yes, you probably will have issues with it forever, but why not try and avoid that? Or if you have a previous tendon injury, why not try and avoid it? Because you know how long it takes to come back from. So do the rehab and keep training to keep it from happening again. It's not something you have to be training every day. A couple of times a week can do enough to save you so much bother down the road. And when it comes to muscular injuries as well, so again, like I was saying, you go too quickly, it pulls something. Look, again, that's kind of something that we can't always plan for. But if we can have our muscles in a state that are used to, so they're used to contracting and being used in a certain way, they're going to be more prepared when something like this happens and less likely to do damage. So it's worth remembering that as well, and the same thing, say for instance you're sitting at a desk all day and your shoulders are now really, really sore. It's probably because your chest muscles are really tight, and if you can straighten up the back, the shoulders muscles at the back, again, doesn't have to be mad tough exercises, but that can take the pain away from your shoulders. And over time, this can turn into maybe the likes of a overuse injury, or I suppose not a tear but a strain even. So if you catch it before it happens, you save yourself a whole lot of rehab, but also you save yourself a whole lot of discomfort. And as I said, when you get physio exercises, if you do them, you can always if you do stop doing them, because to be fair, it's hard to do something that you don't need to do. It's hard enough to do it when you're told to do it. I know, I've had enough conversations with clients about it. But if you have those exercises and get sore again, you can use them again to build it back up. So it's not like you're stuck again having to go back into the physio, you can just literally go back and do what you've done before. And ta-da, Shazam, I don't know, something like that. You'll feel better again. So it's good because you then have these like tools in your toolbox to help you when you're not right. Now, the other thing as well is training when injured or carrying something. You can 100%, unless you've got like a spinal injury of sorts, or something. Now, to be fair, spinal people, if you have mobility, you can train. Not telling people train with a spinal injury, always consult a professional who specialises in this stuff. But what I'm saying is, if you have some form of injury or some kind of long-term chronic issue, you can still train. You don't have to stop just because one thing hurts. So I have clients in the gym with issues with their back, with their knees, with their shoulders, and you can train around that. And there's like two options doing that. One, if you are able to, you can do the exercise with a lighter weight. That's the simplest one of doing it. But if you're not able to do it, you can just be given different exercises. So if you are doing a gym class, or even if you're training on your own, look at what you can't do. Because even if the likes of a shoulder injury or say a hip injury, you can often train around them. So maybe, like obviously if it's very severe, you won't be able to do maybe leg work if it's a hip injury or a leg injury, but maybe you'll be able to do something with your two legs if it's not that severe. And same thing, like if you have a shoulder problem, maybe you can work it, because you can do so many different exercises with your shoulder in different planes of movement. Maybe there's a different plane you can work through that won't cause pain and it won't damage your injury anymore. So obviously if you have the knowledge and doing this yourself, great. If not, I would suggest again working with a professional. Like, there should be no reason that you can't exercise at all. Like, I used to go to a physio, it was great. You'd just be like, don't do this and this, and you can do the rest. And that will keep you active and keep you moving, and you can work around the injury. And it doesn't feel, because like sometimes when you get injured, it feels like you can't do anything anymore, and it's just like, it's so frustrating, because I know I'm the worst. I'm like physio's worst nightmare. I'm like, okay, so what can I do, and how can I do this, and can I do this? And they're like, would you just calm down? It's like, as soon as I'm told I can't, I want to train twice as much. But you can work around it. And then obviously if you are, say, one thing you do, you're like, oh, that's a bit much, you just don't do it. And then as you get better, you work these exercises in. And always when you're coming back from an injury, please start low and gradually build yourself up to where you were before, because the quickest way you can re-injure yourself is by trying to start again at the same level you were before. Now, the thing about it as well is, when you start exercising that again, you obviously will be very mindful of it and kind of worried something will happen, but it is going to hurt. It's going to hurt more than it normally hurts, and you're going to be like, wait, I can normally do way more weights than this. But the thing is, it's been damaged. It's like when you're coming back from being sick, like you don't have the same strength there. You need to build it up. You need to take your time with it as well, and understand that some form of pain is normal. Now, obviously, there's levels where you shouldn't be feeling pain, but you might find, say, I know myself, when I hurt my shoulder years ago, I started training again with like 2 kilo dumbbells, and it was killing me. But it's the only thing you can do to build it up. And like that, if you have physio exercise, a lot of the time you might have to use a band, and you're doing like lots of reps with a very low weight, and it burns like hell. But that's what you need to do to build up the endurance and the muscle again. So it's not a bad thing. It is going to hurt, but you kind of want to do that. You want it to feel like it's moving again. Sometimes, like, I notice as well, like, okay, obviously if something's sore, you want to stretch it, and because it feels nice and everything, but I've noticed I get better results from when I activate them. So if I do my band exercises, my shoulder actually feels looser than if I stretched it, because after stretching it, it kind of comes back a little bit later, because it just tightens up again. Whereas if you activate it, it kind of opens it in a different way, if that makes sense. So it's now kind of activating awake, so it's not like tensing up anymore. I don't know if that makes sense, but try it next time. If you're trying to stretch and it's not working, try doing, like, if you have physio exercises, doing them instead and see what happens. So what I'm trying to say here obviously is, Strength training, great to prevent injury. Strength training, great to come back from injury. Be smart about it. Don't be an idiot. Don't be me. Do your physio exercises and go to the physio. And if you've got obviously spinal injuries, make sure if you are coming from an injury, please don't ignore it and just wait for it to go away. Like, if it's going on for over a month, it's time to go see someone about it. It's not going to go away. You know, you need to go to someone who's going to give you exercise to do as well. Like, you know, if it's your own fault if you don't do anything about it, because I think a lot of us are carrying injuries. There's always going to be something. Our bodies aren't perfect. But if you've been carrying something for a while and you look for sympathy from me, I won't give it to you. I do it to myself, but still, I don't look for sympathy on it. I just know it's my fault. But just do it. You'll regret not doing it sooner, because you'll be like, oh, I didn't realise this could feel this good. You know, or just not feel pain. It's so worth it for that alone, not feeling pain. And people take for granted how nice it is to not be in pain. And just because it's been there for so long doesn't mean it has to stay there, you know. So I think moral of the story is go get it looked at and stop putting it off. The likelihood is, in most case scenarios, is you won't have to stop training either. If you have a good physio or physical therapist, they'll be able to tell you what you can still do. You can still train and you can work with someone. I literally had someone in an ankle boot in classes recently, and we just worked around what she was able to do. We got her doing stuff. Like, you know, it's not hard to work around it. It's not as big as you think it's going to be, and it's much better for you if you get it sorted, okay? For just all parts of your life, not just training. This could be just general day to day. It's nice to sit at the desk and not have pain in your shoulders or your wrist or all those kind of things. So with that, guys, I think I am going to leave you for today. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found it helpful. I'm sorry I kind of went to the end first. That was just my brain being my brain. But if you do want to follow me, my Instagram, I have 2 Instagrams, is Chrissy H Fitness, and the other one is Strong in the Saddle. That is my most active one. I'm also on TikTok at Strong in the Saddle. And if you want to find out more about working with me, even if you have injuries, we might be able to do something. You can find info on that on www.chrissyhawkins.com. So I hope you enjoyed this and found this interesting, and I will talk to you all next week. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, you know, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.